Powered by Riverside FM.
Does that make a difference? Does that make a difference? Does that make a difference? My goodness, somebody put the microphone on mute. Are you all there? Can you still, are you with me? Right. Is everybody there? Oh, Aletta, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me know. My goodness. I mean, that was, oh, good. Okay. I think we're ready to go. Now I've frozen on Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Wow, I do apologize, everyone, for being there. Where are we? We're now 10 minutes in. The first 10 minutes was fantastic. You should have heard it. It was a good old background about why I think the problem with there is no money in prevention comes about. I'll do a brief synopsis. It's because the industry is set up to make money. The industry is actually set up, pharmaceutical industry, that is actually set up um, to cure, in inverted commas, prevent an illness. And I reflected on one of the first products I ever worked on, which was Adalat, a calcium channel blocker for high blood pressure. In fact, they called it essential hypertension. Essential meaning I don't know where it comes from. And the essential hypertension piece was cured by using this calcium channel blocker, which kept the arteries open, thus reducing the blood pressure in the system. But it didn't cure the high blood pressure to start with, didn't get rid of that. And that's the fundamental challenge with an awful lot of medicines these days. There are a huge number. Let's not um, completely blow the pharmaceutical industry out of the water. They do a massive amount of work in curing and getting rid of some really nasty diseases. Um, and it takes a massive amount of money to bring a molecule to the marketplace. I remember back in, I don't know when it was, in the 90s, I was working at GlaxoSmithKline in Stevenage, and it took about, in those days, 750 million pounds to bring one molecule to the marketplace. The reason being they had to scan hundreds of thousands, if not molecules, to get something that had a response to the target that they were looking at, and weed out all the ones that didn't work. So you get this massive, big op- load of options, and then slowly over years and painstaking work and testing and testing and retesting and toxicity and so on, you get down to the one that might work, and then you put it into trials, and then sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So it's a really, really hard thing to do. I get it. But as far as employers and employees are concerned, I think there's a huge amount of money that can be made, if not inversely made, in helping employees prevent problems. And my focus here really is in mental health and in burnout, because I've seen too many people reach burnout. And I've seen too many people come into my office and say, that they feel guilty that they didn't reach burnout. They need help, but there is a guilt factor. Now, that phrase in itself tells me that there's a problem within the organization, that that person couldn't speak up to get the help they needed. And far too often people can't. And then it comes to this big thing that comes up, and then they're signed up for 3 weeks, 3 months or more. Now, where does prevention come in? How can prevention help the bottom line? Because to the most part, organizations exist to make a profit, and you're either on the expense side or the generation side. You generate revenue to bring it in, or you're in that side of the organization as cost that's sent it out. And parts of the organization that are kind of more support function, like well, most of it really, finance, tax, HR, communications, all of those functions cost the organization money. So that getting some return back would be a useful thing. Now, how can they do that? Well, one is preventing the burnout in the first place. One of the big things organizations can do is include their employees more and make sure they are engaged in what they are doing and why they are working. Um, and to do that, it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but it's certainly time, effort, and therefore money well spent, because an engaged employee is going to give you far better return on their salary than a non engaged one. Corporate burnout really is a pressing concern in the modern workplace, and it's just this relentless pursuit of growth and profit that has left many employees on the brink of physical and truly mental exhaustion. It takes someone who recognizes that their stress burnout journey started 2 3 years ago. It takes many months to get over that. I worked with a lady who one day woke up in a hotel room. She didn't know what city she was in. She didn't even know what country she was in. She was so burnt out and confused and disorientated. It took a full year of help to get her back on her feet again. And the organization is partly responsible for that, for letting that happen. Yes, the individual is too. The individual, as we all, need to do to take care of ourselves. So prevention comes in many forms, including what we put into our heads, what we put into our mouths. So the food and the liquids that we take in make a huge difference to our well-being. Leafy green veg, clearly the way to go. That I know there are people here that are really cheer that statement. Um, but the cleaner and the greener our vegetables and our diet, and the darker it is, it appears, the darker berries are better than the lighter berries. So a red grape better than a green grape, for example. All help in that prevention cycle. So to understand the true value of prevention, got to acknowledge that burnout is not just a personal issue. Uh, and to paraphrase a politician in the UK, it's not a lifestyle choice. It truly is not. It has far reaching consequences, not only on the employee's well being, but the productivity and the innovation within the organization, the overall success of the organization really matters to the well-being of the team and the people who are actually producing. So in in this context, investing in prevention and mental health is not only ethical, but actually it's economically sound and will repay you many times. Think of it as also uh, the insurance premiums. Now, if you're in HR, you know that insurance premiums go up. So the insurance premium that pays for the employee going on long-term sick. On short-term sick, the organization tends to pick up the bill. If it goes over 2 3, maybe a month, 2 3 weeks or a month, then an insurance premium kicks in and the insurance company picks up paying the salary and any interventions that come in. Now, imagine you could prevent the employees going off on burnout in the first place. Then in crude terms, money, the amount of money you're spending out on insurance premiums will drop. You'll actually become a hero because you're saving the company money. But also the person, let's not forget there's truly a real human being at the heart of this. The person feels so much better. They're able to operate at a much higher level with much more engagement and in a way that can serve not only their organization, but them and their psychology. So other aspects of reducing this burnout and so on, you reduce absenteeism. You actually bring in more people who are engaged, but burnout results in people not being at work, and you pay for them when they're not at work. So if you have someone who's teetering on the edge and moving towards, you will find they take maybe longer lunch breaks or come in late or perhaps even take days off sick, which in most organizations around Europe, definitely they will be paid for. Those sick days are paid for, but you're not getting any productivity from them. So you have additional costs, which can be mitigated through preventative measures that come from reducing the amount of stress there is and their mental health. Top talent actually these days look for um, all sorts of things that help people with their mental health. Employee Assistance Program, the EAP, is one way of doing that. But then there also needs to be an active part on the employee to access those. And therefore, there's an active part on the employer to make sure the employee knows that that's available and it's secure and confidential and so on. Carol and I from Inspire Coaching have done many sessions for uh, an EAP provider who provides this service into many organizations in the Swiss market for certain. And we do presentations, some lunch and learns, and that sort of thing to help people with the mindfulness journey and understand breathing techniques and how all these things can really help. And they're getting very well attended. People do like them. So it's the sort of thing that you can build into your routine and have sort of theme weeks and that sort of thing. But more importantly, embed it into the culture. So top talent look at things like this about the well-being, and companies prioritize mental health and prevention are more likely to not only attract the top talent but also keep their top talent, because remember, replacing people because it's not a nice place to work is really, really expensive too. Now, when you're stressed, you cannot be at your best. When you're flooded with cortisol, which most people are most of the day because it's a survival mode, even if you're just rocking up on a daily basis, you're still in some sort of survival mode. Um, you can't think clearly. If you can't think clearly, if you can't even think, clear your head to get ahead in that way, you're not going to be able to innovate and create. And you may think, well, I'm not in an innovative job, but we all are really. We're always trying to find a better way to do what we do, and in that way, be creative and innovative too. Lovely words to say at this time in the morning. Um, so I've got to shift that paradox that there is no money in prevention. And many employees around, certainly in the area that I'm working in, are introducing well-being programs, and many of them are well-meaning, and many of them um, just tick a box, just say, oh, we've got a well-being program. You dive deeper into the well-being program and you'll find that there are lots of good things in there, but they're done on a whimsical way, if you like. There's not a program, it's an offer. It's someone will turn up and take a course on yoga, which is great. Yeah, do a Monday lunchtime yoga, or even 2 or 3 times a week. Someone will come in and use a meeting room, do some yoga exercises, which is great, or Kalanetics, or whatever it is. There's a gym on site. All of that stuff makes helps with well-being. But there are other interventions that you can do to truly embed and even get data for, to show that the data can support that. The program I offer has biometric feedback, it's real time, it's visible, and it's measurable. And we run a program that starts off on a baseline, which you either measure your whole organization or a subset or a team, whatever it is, but a big sector of the organization, or personally, even we go right down to the individual and get a baseline. Where are you now? What's going on? How are people? And then do the program and measure it, and then show the results again at the end. Now, there's thing is, in all of these, there's a bit of work to do, and there's a bit of work on both sides of that equation. So it matters that organizations offer it, but it also matters that individuals take it up. And in fact, the best examples of this I've seen, where teams have taken the preventative side of life more seriously, teams tend to work together. It starts to build and enhances any trust that they have in that team. That trust brings you into high performance. You're in a much better mental place to deliver the work that needs to be done, and far less likely to burn out. And it's measured, and you can see the results, and you can compare, and you can continue and grow. But it's an investment. Now, organizations that put these things in place really do see the benefit. And those organizations that include families as well have a higher degree of success than those that just look at the employee. So there are organizations that will have a well-being program and show everything that's on offer and start to organize and mobilize their employees and offer it out to the families as well. That could be in newsletters or it could be in videos, all sorts of things that happen. But the more you include your employees in this, the far greater your level of success. And that leads to money in prevention. That leads to you saving huge amounts of money. May cost a little bit to this, prime this pump, but frankly, the return on that investment is massive, truly massive. And if you're after data and you want to know more about that, then please do let me know. We're coming up to sort of roundabout time that I would sign off. I'm genuinely sorry for the schoolboy error of muting the microphone on the microphone, which is bizarre. That's never happened before. Um, all the other parameters were up and running. So I do hope you got something out of this. We'll revisit this again. If you've got any comments that you'd like to make on uh, there is no money in prevention, I would love to hear you. Let's have a discussion under this video when it goes previously live on the LinkedIn channel. I'll edit the muting bit out unless someone's really good at lip reading, because I can't remember what I said. But believe me, it was amazing, which is kind of frustrating. And we can take it from there. I'm here to learn as well. I'm not here to say I'm right. So anyone who's out there going, "This is not right, he's talking rubbish," tell me. I'd love to know. I'd love to know your perspective. I'd love to know what you're doing in your organization that is actually showing that there is money in prevention. Um, Organizations together need to work on this with employees, and those that are producing a cure can be part of the conversation to encourage people to prevent rather than let disease happen. One of the biggest challenges, just rephrasing something I said earlier, is that sometimes the payback on prevention is a long way away. So there are things that I know I did in my youth, and I never smoked and I never took drugs. I know, dull, boring, but I did like a beer, and I did like my going out for um, y- doing what normal teenagers do. Uh, but there are things when we're an invincible teenager that we often do that we has a payback later on in life. And I know that now these days we know that even if you smoked as a teenager, but you gave only for 5 years, perhaps, but you gave up, that damage is still there and can show up later on in life. And the big challenge really is to recognize that sometimes the payback from your preventative measures don't show. And then there's did it work? How do you measure that? Well, with stress and well-being, we can measure it. With some of those other lifestyle choices that show up and lead to dis-ease later on in life, then you have a bigger problem. And of course, some of those have a root cause based in unresolved trauma and other emotional aspects that are trapped in the body. That's a whole nother topic. Um, so I won't go into that one, but I do believe it to be true. Coming up on the hour, I've been Martin Daubney. I come from Inspire Coaching based in Basel, and we help people be at their very best every single day without burning out. Apologies for the sound. I'll see you at the same time next week and hopefully have a full discussion as to what's going on. Thank you for being there, and I look forward to seeing you again at another time.